We are growing up without borders, a family of 5 on a mission to travel to every country in the world. Back when we were visiting Chiang Mai, Thailand, we met a lovely couple named Howard and Namon who had a wonderful property there, and I was able to meet with Howard and sit with him, pick his brain a little bit, and see why he chose Thailand as a place to retire in. And in this video, we're going to share with you some of the top things you're probably wondering as well about retiring in Thailand. If we've missed anything, make sure to comment below and we'll be sure to get back to you. Here we are live in Chiang Mai, Thailand, and I'm here with Howard. And
hey everybody.
Meet Howard. He's born and raised actually north of Toronto, has lived in many countries, has traveled the world to so many Asian countries, and is very well knowledgeable in living and basically retirement here in Thailand. So I thought it'd be really cool to introduce you guys to him and then ask some questions that some of our viewers would be curious to know. So the first one would be, we want to know, why do people retire in Thailand? And I'll go through some of the different topics. So one would be, I think, essentially your quality of life when it comes to climate. So if you can explain the climate here throughout the year, what is it like?
So it is very different from European, North American, or even South Pacific climes in that they don't get any cold season. We're coming to the close of what they would call cool season here, which means typically you see temperatures during the day in the range around 29, 30 degrees, and then dropping at night down to a really pleasant 14, 15, 16 degrees, perfect for sleeping.
Which is ideal, yeah.
It never gets brutally hot like in the Mideast, like in Dubai or places like that where you're into the 40s, but it does from March through June have a hot season where it tends to get up around 37, 38 degrees and drop only down as low as about 22 at night. But generally, it's pretty nice year-round, and this winter cool season, they get not a single drop of rain for 5 months. So you can count on any kind of outdoors activities, whether you want to go bicycling or hiking or swimming or anything else, with 100% certainty, because there's no rain. It's clear like this every single day.
Geographically, Chiang Mai is north, so you have Bangkok, we're quite far north. What are some of the activities you can do in this area? Because you do have mountains, you have the city life, you have local markets, hiking, biking.
Chiang Mai and the north generally are famous for a lot of outdoors activities. If you get one of the better apps like Gaia or other similar GPS apps, they've got every conceivable bike trail, hiking trail, really cool. Walking and running trail in minute detail, and you can open them on your GPS and literally see step by step where you're going.
So
there's a plethora of things like that to do. We're only 20 minutes from the heart of Chiang Mai, yet we're within a 10-minute walk of the mountains, which is really lovely.
Yeah, like you're in the countryside, and yet you have access to city life within minutes, right?
Exactly.
Which is really nice.
And it's also the culinary capital of Thailand. Thailand's already well known worldwide for really great, flavorful, bright food. And Chiang Mai is the acknowledged culinary center here. You get chefs even like Andy Ricker from Pok Pok in New York and Han from Toronto, all coming here to learn even more about Thai cooking from the Thai cooking masters who have passed on these recipes for generations.
Wow, that's phenomenal. And what's interesting is when you're in North America, you might have Thai meals, but when you come here, you try so many different variations that you didn't even know existed.
Exactly.
At least that's what I found.
Thai food in North America and Europe generally is doctored up with a fair bit of extra soy sauce and particularly extra sugar that you don't find here. Here the flavors are much brighter, a lot more use of fresh herbs. There's a half a dozen types of Thai basil alone, which add this great fragrant burst of flavor to the cooking.
Well, let's talk a little bit about that. So along with great food, you have this vast variety of produce that is locally grown and available at the markets here, and ground is so fertile, right? That you can
Sure is.
grow. I mean, just on their property alone. I mean, let's explain a little bit about what you have just in your backyard.
We're growing mangoes. We're growing our own papayas, which we've been eating for breakfast each day. Longan, which is very similar to a lychee. Many different types of herbs, eggplant, cucumber, chilies, you name it. The soil here is so fertile. That's why Thailand traditionally has been one of the world's biggest exporters of food. For us, we've literally taken papayas that we've bought in a supermarket and found certain types were really tasty. We take the seeds from the papaya and we plant it. Within 1 year, you've got a full-size tree that's giving us papayas the size of a football.
It's just like, yeah, it's like almost like you just toss the seeds and it just flourishes.
Literally.
Isn't that wild?
It comes literally right out of the ground.
And then there's the markets. So you have markets, fresh produce markets, not like you have in maybe European countries where you have once a week. No, this is every other day, is it?
Yeah, 3 times a week in our case of our local market. And there's also a very growing awareness of pesticide safety and organic material here. So you get a lot more organic produce available.
Wow.
And any market or grocery store, you must bring your own reusable bags.
This is amazing because it's above and beyond what we were expecting of Thailand. I think
exactly. For a developing country, it's got a very, very advanced environmental awareness.
This is amazing. You know, when you look at people looking to move somewhere, they might think Panama or Mexico or Thailand, right. And we're in our heads comparing all these different countries. Well, Thailand, the cost of living here, well, explain some of the pricing. It's just unbelievable.
Yeah, I mean, when my wife and I go out for a really nice meal, let's say a 4 or 5 course meal at a nice restaurant on the river, you know, if we can run the bill to 12 euros a person, that's a really lavish meal. And I'm talking about with a whole fish and some king prawns and really delicious items. And you combine that with phenomenally good healthcare. Thailand is the only country that's certified by the European Union for external provision of healthcare. So if you need a hip replacement in Ireland, the Irish government and the European community will pay you to come to Thailand and have it done here because the quality of healthcare is phenomenal. I mean, it's as good as anything I can find in downtown Boston, which is considered one of the world's great medical centers.
Yeah. So
it's
that's
outstanding
phenomenal.
here.
And now to purchase healthcare, is that affordable as an expat living here?
Absolutely.
It is.
There are a number of companies like Blue Cross and Bupa and so on who will sell expat insurance policies, but the cost is generally very, very reasonable. When I visit a specialist here, highly trained, invariably did their fellowships and residencies in either Canada, the US, UK, or Australia, including the clinic charge and the doctor's charge, you're looking at something in the vicinity of 15 or 16 euros. And when you compare that to, you know, a Panama, a Costa Rica, Mexico, which still has decent medical care, but it's not nearly of the same caliber and actually is more expensive than the healthcare here.
Well, and the fact that the European Union, if they're willing to send someone and pay for their treatments here, it's got to say it's pretty good. I mean,
exactly.
So that's phenomenal. So now when we're comparing different countries, there's a whole aspect of, will I be safe? And I think that's one of the top things here in Thailand is it's a safe country.
Exactly.
I mean, you don't have gates around the houses like you see in other countries.
No.
People are so friendly. I mean, just like in any country, you probably maybe not walking, you wouldn't go down certain streets at certain times of the night. You might get
even that I wouldn't hesitate for the most part. Bangkok might be the exception because it's so big. It's one of the biggest metropolitan areas in the world. Currently, population's estimated around 17 million.
Wow.
But outside of Bangkok, it's a very different story. Don't do stupid things. Don't go to a very crowded night market and have your wallet sticking halfway out of your pocket.
Okay.
That's just
but that's anywhere
common
in the
sense.
World. Right.
Exactly.
Yeah.
But
no,
in general,
amazing.
It's very, very low crime rate here, and we feel very comfortable.
When you think of the easiness of getting around with languages, generally when you go to a country that doesn't speak the language, it's a little bit hard to get by. But here I find the people are very open and friendly to communicate, and a lot of them speak enough of the language of English that you can get by somewhat, right? And then you end up learning a few words here and there to work your way through it, right?
Exactly, Chantal. They, all street signs by law are in both English and Thai here, so it makes it easy to get around. Google Maps is completely updated and accurate for Thailand. And you go into almost any restaurant, the menus will be in both Thai and English. And people are very eager and anxious to help. Even if their English isn't super proficient, they're happy to try and help get by.
And I think because they have so many tourists here, it's just above and beyond with people speaking English in most of the hospitality industry, right? So
absolutely, you can find someone pretty much anywhere, and Thais are very, very engaging.
Yeah.
So it's really easy to find someone who can help you out if you're having any kind of language gap.
Yeah, and I find them very genuinely friendly. That's
Super
what we've
friendly.
experienced. So
Absolutely.
It's been nice. How about talking about being an expat? Let's say someone wants to come here and buy a house. Explain to everyone, because it's not like anyone could just buy a home. So there's ways to working around the system here, and maybe give them a little bit of insight in case someone wants to come and buy a house here.
So Thailand does have a restriction in that foreigners are not permitted to own land in Thailand. It's a way of making sure that the Thais get priority and they don't have to suffer from outrageous land inflation. But that being said, foreigners are completely free to purchase condos, and what many of the developments here have done is they've set up communities as condo associations so that the condo association owns the land, so you don't have that restriction against the foreigners owning the land, and then from the condo association you get a perpetual right to use that land, and you can still build your own house, you can own the building physically, and you get a perpetual right of use of the land.
So let's say someone wants to come, they want to retire, and the requirements might change when you're watching this video, but what are the requirements right now, more or less, to be able to do that?
So as of this time, and it's been the same way for many years, Thailand's basic restriction is you should be at least 50 years old.
Okay.
And if you're 50 years old, you can apply to any Thai embassy for what they call a non-immigrant O visa. It costs a whopping $80. And that gives you the right to stay for 90 days. And then while you're here, during those 90 days, you can apply to convert that to what they call a long-term residency non-immigrant visa, which means that you make application to the immigration department to extend for a year, and that then grants you 1 year right of stay, and you can renew those every year here in perpetuity. You don't have to leave the country.
Oh, you don't have to leave?
No, you you can renew them every year.
That's amazing.
And the one restriction is each year, 90 days before you go to renew your visa, you have to show at least 800,000 baht, which is approximately 25,000 euros or 27,000 US dollars, has to be present in a bank account that is solely in your name. And the Thai government considers 25,000 euros enough to have a very comfortable lifestyle here. And I would agree with that. We figure, because we have a larger property here and a larger home, we find we probably spend in the vicinity of 3,000 to 3,300 euros, about $3,500 a month for what here would be deemed a very, very luxurious lifestyle.
Well, and they have a very luxurious home, and so not everyone might be looking for that. Because if you were looking for just, a smaller home and whatnot, but you would still have a really good quality of life with a very little. I mean, to get a massage here for 2 hours is like 15 euros, about that?
Yeah, exactly. It's very, very reasonable for a 2-hour massage. You're sort of, this is bliss.
And it's good quality massage. I mean,
Absolutely,
it is unbelievable. So this is a good place to rest and relax and rejuvenate, whether it's a longer stay you want to do, or what I call a workation. There's a lot of digital nomads that come to places like this this is why.
Absolutely. And also, a lot of people choose, if you have a property here, either that you rent, and there are a plethora of properties available for rent, or if you want to buy something, you can get a maid here. It will cost you about 260 euros a month for a full-time person, 6 days a week. And they appreciate it because you're creating employment here, and it makes for a very, very nice lifestyle.
Wow, yeah, that you can't have otherwise in most countries.
No, it's about what you'd get, what you'd pay in Switzerland for 1 day.
We know that. Well, great. Well, thank you so much for
My pleasure.
sharing your insight. I mean, how many years have you been coming to Thailand now?
Well, I've been coming here for almost 40 years, but I've had a home here with my wife for almost 20 years.
Wow.
And I can't tell you how much we enjoy it and feel very fortunate to be able to have this lifestyle in this beautiful location.
Yeah, it's amazing. Well, thank you so much.
My pleasure. Thank you.
Great.